Hey, this is the Kubeflow community meeting for the 14th of October 2025. This is the CNCF Code of Conduct. Please follow it. We have a lot of important topics, but not a large number of topics today. I guess the first one is if anyone's new and wants to say hi. I think there's mostly familiar faces in the call, but I think there is a few new ones. So maybe if someone, you don't have to say hi. If you would like to say hi, you can unmute your mic and say hi. Welcome. If not, then typing in the chat's fine too. Okay, I think the first item was there is a change to the other meeting. So I'll let Francisco or Andre say something about that.
Yeah, we're just moving the graduation call and re-merging the community and graduation call. I think every other week we were doing the graduation call to try to get us our graduation submission over the finish line, and we did. So that's great. But now we're going to move it back to a community call every week, and every other week we'll spend about 25% of the time or so providing updates on the status of graduation. Right now, we're at a holding period until like the talk reviews our application, but we'll see as things progress.
I saw that.
Anything else you wanted to add, Andre?
Yeah, I think so. So overall, we will continue to do the progress, and we will continue to do some action items from CNCF, but we will just use this time to let community members and users to speak up. So in any case, like if you want to get anything for graduation, we have a Slack channel, Kubeflow/graduation. So please join and follow the progress there.
I think Knative did graduate, which was the one at the top of the list. So that's a reasonable sign that we will eventually get down the list. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we have, we have pretty good progress and pretty good widespread adoption and, usage of Kubeflow. So CNCF definitely have a priority for us, but definitely like if they just want to have a fair, policy for all the projects, which means they just follow the queue. And I think like recently announced in the TOC channel, if some of the projects, they don't have anything in the checklist, they're going to just close the application for them, which means like, because we've done all of our homework before, we should be relatively good ones that triage us. And several projects, got graded and incubated in the last 2 weeks, so we should be good.
Okay,
I also
probably not
think
before the KubeCon though, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just want to say we got few +1s from more adopters. I think I'm still kind of waiting for one of them to give +1. But if I remember correctly, one of them, I think we got +1 from, if I remember correctly, from NVIDIA. But I can double check. I think they filled the application form for us.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Other than that, so this means that we do have a slight issue with the event calendar, which is that it still says the other name on the main calendar event. We really need to get that other Google account again. Oh my gosh. Because right now what it will show is the name of the meeting is this. If we want to make it so that it's mostly a community call again, we'll need to flip it back to the other name. Yeah.
So Matthew, did you create the CNCF ticket as we discussed last week?
I think I did. I need to go check and follow up. But either way, if you want to, what I might do is I might create a second Google account, give it access to the calendar. I don't even know if I can give it access to the calendar because I think that's controlled through the same GitOps. Because the problem is every time I've edited a meeting on that calendar, I get banned from Gmail for a period of time because it sends like 10,000 emails when you try and send an update on the calendar manually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see Sarah's desk tickets in our CNCF dashboard, so you might need to create one. In any case, after KubeCon, the Zoom probably will be shut down, so we no longer have access to the Zoom account, so we have to migrate to the Linux Foundation Zoom.
Why would it be shut down? That seems...
Because CNCF will just, cut the cost for spending on those Zoom accounts, so all the projects have to migrate to the LFX one, which means like, I think you want to move forward, we need to do it ASAP and switch to this new calendar, CNCF calendar with a new Zoom account.
Let's put that at the end of the meeting today. Let's discuss. Let's not do it. Okay. Let's not block the meeting right now. But let's talk about it and let's try and figure out how to get that solved. Migration to anyway. let's move on. I don't think we need to have this at the top of the meeting. So what this is just like, all I'm saying is that if you see the meeting called this, still join it. That's what we're saying. The community call, it's actually a community call. Awesome. Anyone else got anything they want to add there before we move on to the Kubeflow Summit? Okay, cool. Kubeflow Summit. Is anyone from the outreach committee here? Or maybe Francisco, I think maybe was briefly talking about it.
Yes, let's see. Kubeflow virtual event.
No. The summit first. Summit first.
Oh, the summit. So the event page. Actually, I don't know what the current status this is. Tarek, have you had a chance to sync up with Valentina on this?
Not about the Kubeflow Summit, though. Yes.
Yep. So I think the only thing we really need to make sure it's solved is what are we doing demo-wise at the booth? Do we have staff organized for it?
Yeah, I was just looking at the booth schedule as well, and I think I'll be able to be there Tuesday for sure. But and there's a spreadsheet link, so let me put.
What's the other dates for the main KubeCon again? It's 10 to 12. It's 11 to 13. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
11th to 13th KubeCon.
Yeah.
Because there's two events. If everyone didn't know, there's the summit, which is happening on the Monday, and then there's the remainder of the week is KubeCon proper. We're obviously got lots of people speaking at both, but
yeah.
But we do need to figure this one out, I think, because otherwise we have no booth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and I think Antonin will be there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I guess the questions we have to answer. So that one is the summit one, and then KubeCon, this one.
Umair, do you want to volunteer on the booth? I think you do. Are you going to KubeCon?
That's not what volunteering means.
I won't be there. Sorry.
Anyway, let's follow up with this. We just need to make sure this happens. I guess the only question we should ask the community is, what do we want to do? Is there anything we want to as a community present? Make sure that it's at the booth.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe what we're doing with the Kubeflow SDK would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think Notebooks 2.0, the SDK, any changes to pipelines, Himo might want to have some. Again, you don't have to necessarily present it. Like, I think one way we can do it, what we do often is we do a slide deck and we record it, someone presenting it, and then play it on loop so that and then obviously when you can come a couple of times and say, there'll be a maintainer there at this time, you know what I mean? And put it on the booth, and then they can answer questions about the slide deck. But normally the best way is just so that it's got something there, and can be a person who doesn't need to be an expert in everything, can be at the booth, but that's usually the way to do it. So maybe we should try and make some material for that, you know what I mean? Just like basic looped kind of, think about it from the perspective of someone who knows about Kubernetes, they're at KubeCon, but doesn't know anything about Kubeflow. We have to try and get that person, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So we should probably the working groups should probably figure out who they want to get to do that. Anyway, Andy, sorry, you've got your hand up.
And I can follow up with Francisco like offline, but like I put my name on that spreadsheet. Do I need, from a Red Hat perspective, should I be doing other stuff? Or, I mean, like we're less than a month out. I thought me putting my name there would kick off some process, but maybe that was foolish. But I might
this is upstream, bro. We like it's all choose your own adventure. So yeah, if there's a time slot you want to add yourself to, please feel free to just add your name.
And then just talk with Valentina about like the Red Hat process to make that happen.
I don't know if you're talking about like funding specifically, or if you're talking about something.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'll pay you. We don't need to talk about this.
Yeah. You can pay me on that one. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, other than that, anyone else got anything that we can do here before we move on to the next one?
I think. Yeah, I think that we probably need to sync with Chase, because he was also preparing this demo and so on. So instead of like double work, so it would be good to check with him first.
I think there's multiple demos, right? Like, I think it's more like just for example, Notebooks 2.0, no one else but the Notebooks 2.0 team could probably create a demo for it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Similarly
yes.
for the SDK, I would imagine. So,
Mm.
I just want to highlight that we should definitely show off stuff, right? Even if, because people will just be walking by, and it's the best way because you can, again, especially if we put a thing saying the maintainer of this piece will be here at this time. Come here if you want to talk to them. That could be an amazing way to get new contributors, amazing way to get new users. Yeah, that's just my
100%.
vibe there.
100%.
Cool,
Yeah.
awesome. Let's very much follow up on this. I think get Valentina figuring that out, and then we can start creating the media, I think. Francisco, do you want to help reach out to her internally?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much. Anyway, virtual event. Oh, wait, anyone else before I move on? It's important. Okay, virtual event. I think there was a discussion that says we might be able to have this event if we would like. We're not forced to, but I think the question was partially, will we do it? Is that right, Tarek?
Yes, exactly. Like we need to decide as a community, like if we would like to have this, then we need to decide because it's we need to.
And so the date is this? Is that what you're saying? Like you have to have done it before November 24th?
Yeah, if we would like to have it in maybe May, June, and July, that's so we need to have this approved by 24th of November, I guess.
So I guess, I mean, having events is fine as long as, I know that running events is always time consuming no matter what, because you have to have speakers and stuff. So I guess it's a matter of, will we have, because when is EU KubeCon, right? Because we don't want to overload ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. I think it should be something in March. If I remember correctly.
Make sure we don't overload the community if we plan to do something at EU KubeCon. Because like like last time I think we ran into this problem where we had EU KubeCon and this kind of virtual event at the same time. Oh, that's at March. Okay, yeah. It might not be a problem because EU is 23 to 26 March 2026. Okay, so what do we need to do as a community in the short term? I guess we've got until November to finalize our thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if we would like to have this event, then we need to call for speakers and so on. And the idea
is this a speaker date, not a proposal to have the event date?
Virtual event require a 6 months lead approved proposal submitted by November 24th.
Okay, so that sounds just like us proposing the event rather than having our speakers already finalized before then, right?
Yeah, I can send you the exact thing from Valentina.
Okay. Cool. Anyway, so other than this, let's just keep on moving, I guess. What do we need to decide? So, I mean, more events is good if there's people to run them and talk at them. If we make it a constrained event, it doesn't need to be super long, right? Yeah. So
yeah, yes. I mean, the entire event, I think it's half day. So
like middle of the year next year, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening in the Kubeflow community. I really do think, like there's going to be, SDK will be somewhat more mature. Of course, we're going to have just had KubeCon, but March is pretty early in the year. You know what I mean? So like there's a chance that some things will, I don't know, just questions for people. Do we, like, it seems like we're going to have to prioritize getting something proposed if we want to actually do this. Because this obviously is pretty close to KubeCon, so. Okay. Tarek, any other points you want to raise, or just like leave it to the community to kind of think about for the next week or two?
Yeah, I think we can. I don't know. Should we like have this like in Kubeflow discuss maybe?
Yeah, you can raise a
and open it. Huh?
I think maybe that's a good question, right? Especially if it's a short event, how many speakers are we wanting? You know what I mean? And I feel like as a community, we might want to be really prescriptive and be like, really market it because it's online. KubeCon can be kind of hard to get to for a lot of people, right? So I wonder if we could use it as like a real marketing opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, and specifically also like the upcoming KubeCon will be merged with AI Day, right? So it will be even tough competition to get to speak during that event. So probably having a dedicated virtual event would be good opportunity for Kubeflow specific topics, so to say. So in my opinion, it would be really good, but of course we need to have more opinions as well.
I mean, it's all about having speakers, and I don't think it's just about sending CFPs though. I think if we're going to do something like this that's really just Kubeflow, we should have like the maintainers of the project be the majority of the speakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be like,
yes.
and push people to be like, hey, use this opportunity to use the marketing apparatus of the CNCF. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think if exactly, like it would be really good if the project maintainers be just describing a like roadmap of each component or like new cool features and then so on. So
because
it
this
doesn't
will
have
probably
to be,
coincide with us graduating, right? It feels like, you know what I mean? That or
Mhm.
maybe March will, maybe May is farther in the year. But anyway, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's an opportunity. I just think Andre?
Yeah, I could quickly say, I think, so we've done this this year. I think I kind of like, from my personal perspective, this event might be a good opportunity for us to reconnect with end users, because those calls, yes, we do have regular calls, but not many end users join them because not all of them participate in active development. That is why, again, there are a lot of work which needs to be done here. And if you, Tarek, or if you know anyone from outreach team can drive this, we should definitely pursue. But like I kind of envision this as the opportunity for us to speak with actual people who use Kubeflow in production, or maybe speak about their challenges, or maybe, like tell maintainers what things we need to focus on. And, it's maybe an additional place on top of KubeCon like twice a year that we have. But we just need to someone who can drive this.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I thought this was more of a, we do a pretty tight ship presentation to the group.
No, we did this again. This is similar to what we've done for Kubeflow Virtual Symposium in July, which Amber was proposing back in September. Then we reorganized it, and we did have this event in July. So CNCF hosted, recorded, published on YouTube. We did have like some participations, etc. So, and this process will go through CFP and all other things, but it will be fully virtual.
What I'm meaning is like, I thought it was like, people, for example, we have sessions where we talk rather than people talking. Like, I think you mentioned talking to users. Isn't it more like we're presenting to users? Yes, but not like the users aren't presenting to us. Well, the users could present, but it's a bit different.
So if you take a look at what we've done in July, this is like several end users present their usage of Kubeflow, and also like what they
I feel like
want.
that's not going to drive attendance. Like, I really feel like what people are going to want is to see some big users, yes, just to have it there on the event, but like primarily being like, what is the vision for Kubeflow? Like, we're a graduated project. At that point, we'll be a graduated project. Like, what's the future of this project? What are we doing? Because we're working on stuff, right? We're all working on really cool stuff. But this is an opportunity. That's what because then we can use it and be like, hey, come to this and see the future of Kubeflow. Like, I don't know. That's just my thought.
Yeah. I mean, that also might work. I mean, I think like how we can find balance here. Anyway, so if someone can drive this, it will be great. Again, from my perspective, it's a great opportunity, but we just need, see what will be an agenda and how we're going to structure this event.
I think the qualifying question is, I think, can we at least get commitment from 30 minutes from each major project group in the project, like to say, we will give a 30-minute session about what we're doing and the cool stuff we're working on. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, or, I feel like that's the qualifying question, right? If we can't even get that, then it'd be quite hard. And we can have users as well, but I just feel like I'd like to see, pipelines, notebooks, trainer, model registry, lots of the stuff that we're doing stuff in. Just vibes. I don't know. Just thoughts. Anyway, cool. So since we need to do this soon, do you want to help with that, Andre, or?
So from my perspective, so unfortunately, like I don't have the bandwidth by myself. If Tarek, you or Valentino, you might want to drive this fully, I'm 100% support it, but we need some volunteer who want to drive it and do all the things.
I mean, logistically, I think the outreach committee is the perfect group to help, but I think we should agree as a community on what we want to use it for, right? Because if we don't,
so anyone can help it with that. Like it doesn't
Yes.
matter. Like it's outreach member or
Yeah, I'll check with Stefano and Valentin and Kubeflow
all right.
outreach, and yeah, probably
Anyone-
Kubeflow discuss would be a good starting point, I guess.
yeah, I think my suggestion is that we try and get buy-in from the working group leads or whatever, just from each working group to be like, hey, yes, we commit to sending a 30-minute presentation there, because then we can advertise it as all of the maintainers of Kubeflow are going to present something. You know what I mean? Like, and it will be a much easier sell, I think, to get people to come. And we can advertise it at both KubeCons. You know, I don't know. Thoughts? Anyway, anyone else got anything that we need to add?
Just to keep it on records, if so, sorry, thank you for explanation, because this was not clear to me. I thought it was more about the symposium. So if it is about the working group and sort of like similar to what we did for the release that happened, like making like the roadmap of what we delivered and what we are planning to go next, if that takes in place of the release video, that's totally fine as well. So happy to indeed do it as part of that and go in more details, because in that release video typically it's like we keep it shorter. So 30 minutes seems like plenty of time that we can go into features, capabilities, more details. At least
For each one, yeah. Like my thought was like, because then it's like, because you have to answer the question for a user, like, why would I come to this? Why would I watch this? You know what I mean? And I think for a normal user, this would be a really cool opportunity to, and then if we have questions, like you're saying, Andre, having a community discussion section, like that, could be helpful. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
That makes perfect sense to me from a model agency point of view. I think that we will gladly take the opportunity to present in more details than the 5 minutes allocated, also like the minutes allocated during the release timeline. Thank you.
Cool. KSC elections. Amber's not here, it doesn't seem.
I can give a brief chat about it, since she's not here. Unfortunately, so /Francisco. So I think we've updated the timeline here. Election officials announced. Yes, so we have the timeline here, and we can. I'll briefly walk through the dates, right? And I think Amber has done some communications about this already. The election officials announcement was last week, I believe, and today we announced the exception phase, where we actually pulled the list of eligible voters. And if you want to submit an election exception about why you want to be able to vote, you can do that now. And then the nomination phase is going to start October 20th, and it'll be 2 weeks. And then the testimonial phase we'll have for 2 weeks, and that'll start November 3rd. And then we'll have 4 weeks for the voting phase, a full month, and then we'll announce the results on December 15th. And we'll be using the same election process that we did last year that does a rank ordering. And we're really excited about this. It's always great to allow the community to choose leaders and steer the project. As we start to go through this process, we'll probably outline some more about for folks that choose to run, how they can share to the community what they want to do. Yeah. Any questions? There are 3 seats available, just as a reminder. And existing members can run again, but we don't know who's going to run. And we encourage anybody who's eligible to run. That said, from the Red Hat perspective, now this year there will be only one Red Hatter allowed. Since I'm the current seat, that means that I'm probably the only person that can be a KSC member from Red Hat until next year, when it can be up to anybody.
Yep, that is correct. Yeah, I think any affiliated companies can only have one representative under the current rules.
unless I change jobs in the next 2 weeks, then like
That seems like an insane move there.
if someone pushes me hard enough, I'm just kidding. Maybe I get fired.
Don't do that. Please don't do that. Okay, anyway.
This is recorded.
Yeah, this is recorded. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, so thank you for that. Cool. So the next step, I guess, is if people want exceptions, they can propose that until the 19th.
Yes.
Then
exactly.
we'll do the nominations after that. And then we'll do the testimonials. Wait, is this over the middle of KubeCon? This might be a bit of a middle. Okay, interesting. It's probably fine.
Yeah, it will be. It will intersect, not perfectly, but honestly, like this is like people can do testimonials after. Like it's. I mean, that's when we should. But like honestly, it's not like we're gonna delete the comment. It's just really when we're.
But the actual voting is here, so that's the main part we care about. Cool. Anyone else got anything they want to add here before we move on? Matteo?
Yeah, just a very quick question though. I'm very well aware about the rule to not have two seats from the same company or organization, even different companies, but belonging to the same entity, legal entity in a way. My only question is that that didn't sort of like show through in the eligible list of people.
That's
Because
for voting. I think the eligible list was for voting.
Yes.
No, also in the one that can run.
Okay, it also is technically the eligibility rules are the same. It's just there's a secondary check that happened. So originally there could be 2 members from a specific affiliated company, but that was changed last year with an exception for the current year that was happening at the time.
Yep.
And so we had 2 from Red Hat at the time, and no other company had 2.
So
So
that is clear to me and matches my expectation, but in the list that we received that was communicated, there are 2 lists. There is one that the people that can vote, and of course, like I'm there because I'm expecting that I should be able to vote. But also, for example, my name is listed in the one that can go for the nomination. So I'm not sure if this is like preventively filtered to avoid that situation, or is it that a check that is run after, say, for example, the testimonial and the voting phase?
so the
Maybe we
way
should clarify that one for the process for the next year.
I agree that for this specific case, no, it's because technically speaking, Francisco could resign just before the election. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's kind of the idea. But technically speaking, that would make his seat also up for election rather than the other way around. If you know what I mean? So like, it's yeah. So it's like each seat they're offset by a year or something. So like they're kind of in 2 groups, kind of like the Senate in America. You know? So,
Thanks for clarifying that one because I just thought about asking.
Yeah, so you'd have to convince Francisco to step down if you wanted to do that. Anyway, okay.
I can be convinced.
It's not my intention, but
you would also force a 4th position to have to be voted off cycle, which is maybe don't do that, please. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we technically re-pulled the list at the end just because, like, you know, I mean, theoretically, I could change jobs, or somebody else in the future could change jobs, or you know, we could also oust one of the KSC members because they're being, you know, not constructive to the community, and so like there's a window of time there where it's like, all right, all sorts of crazy things could happen. I could win the lottery and be like, all right, somebody else do the KSC or something.
So yeah, the wording specifically says that we check for conflicts at the time of the election happening before finalizing. So effectively, the step explicitly says enough people must resign such that this condition is met at the time. You know what I mean? So yeah, strictly speaking, you could try and elect someone, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
My question in this case is that if you should nominate someone of Red Hat or not.
That is a Red Hat question. I feel like you guys should take that offline.
No, that's my question personally. Like if I have that's not Red Hat question. This is a community question. Like if I have someone that works for Red Hat, should I nominate this person or not?
I think like, so I guess my opinion as a Red Hatter or as a community member, I'd say like you can as like, and it's purely symbolic. And sometimes that's okay to do, to tell someone that, hey, look, I really appreciate you. And then, you know, we'll say it explicitly in 3 weeks or so if I'm still on the committee, like, hey, look, this person's not eligible. You know.
So you said yes, right? I can still
So
nominate
you
the person from the
you
community.
can if you
Okay.
want to. Should
Okay,
you?
yeah.
That's more of a like a judgmental statement, right? And I don't want to get into that aspect of it, but it's like you can. If I'm still in my position, then that person would be marked ineligible. But if you wanted to let them know, and sometimes that's like a nice thing to do to the community as well. It's like it's a little ceremonial. Some people could cynically call it performative. I don't think that's necessarily true. You know,
This
but
is so the ruling wording is this, right? So theoretically, you could use this as Red Hat to try and swap Francisco's seat. It is possible. Like that is something.
No,
you
my
could do.
intention is not this. It's just there is a bunch
yeah,
of people that I love that work, and I see those people as independent. There are people that I'm working for a long time in the community that I want to.
It is also a
recommend
ranked
that.
choice system. So, well, no, it is complicated though because it would force them. Anyway, this is something we could probably talk about in a more technical
I would
sense.
have to if I decided to like rerun to make it fair, right?
No, you wouldn't have to rerun. You don't have to rerun. You are the
I
current.
could step down, or I could offer up my seat and rerun. Is like one way to.
That's not quite how this works, unfortunately. You would have to have the other person win, and then you would resign at the time they accept the position.
I see.
Like it's like the Senate. You have to view it like the Senate. Like it's very intentionally designed so that a company cannot swap their representative at will.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that does make sense.
Yeah. Because it's not a company, it's a person. You know what I mean? That's that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Cool. Andre.
No, just quickly, I think Eder, it's a good question. I think from my personal perspective, you probably should be able to nominate anyone from the community who is eligible, but election officers should decide whether, they're eligible or not like ourselves as a community. We have Amber and we have, I think, David. So two of them should decide on this.
Cool.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yep. CNCF graduation updates. I think we quickly mentioned it before the call, but do you want to quickly say it again?
No, I think we're good here. So again, like we download the homework. Like I think we're waiting for CNCF to triage us. We have +1 from more companies. I think we're also working with another company to give us +1. So if you know anyone actually who's using Kubeflow in production, please ping me, like privately, or just use our Slack channel to fill the adopters application. So CNCF will interview you how you use Kubeflow in production. It will help us to drive this progress forward.
Okay, cool. I might move this there. Because we were talking about this last week as well. I'll just move that one in there. Okay, cool. Let's keep going then. Where's the tracker that shows the current review list? I'm trying to find it again. Here it is. Yeah, paste it in here. Graduation tracking issue talk. And then it's just that one. This one. And then I think it's on this board so we can see what our current status is. Oh, where is it? Evaluation of projects? No, where is it? Here, I think. Where are we? We're in. Anyway, we're at this here on the stack. I think they do top to bottom. So we're a couple of ones down, but close. Maybe 8 down. Okay, cool. Anything else you got for that graduation stuff?
No, we can move on. Yep.
Cool. Hamar, you quickly wanted to propose something?
Yeah, so we, the KFP maintainers, have been discussing the need for a separate components repository in Kubeflow pipelines. So for those without context, components in Kubeflow pipelines are a means to provide modular components to your pipelines. Your pipelines themselves can be components. They can be in the form of Python, YAML, what have you. And it's a great way to be able to create a pipeline piecemeal. It's a pretty powerful feature of KFP, and historically there has been a location in the Kubeflow pipelines repository. So I'll drop a link in the chat. This is where the repository has hosted user provisioned components for KFP, and they have come in all manners of forms and for various different environments, for different components in KFP, interacting with different tools. So this was added before I was a maintainer, so I didn't really have much say in the structure of this, but there has been a little bit of I would say not as much maintenance from the maintainer's part on this location. It's the idea, I think, was you will see various owners files within the subdirectories. And the goal had been to have those that are responsible for their respective directories to maintain that component or organization's components. So if you're from like Amazon or IBM or what have you, you would have your separate owners files. So it was kind of having separate maintainers within the KFP repository. So there's a huge number of components. A lot of them have been abandoned, and we have slowly started to remove some of them. There's been talks about whether we want to keep this directory in the KFP repo because they are user provisioned. So the conclusion that we have drawn is that the components, they actually would make a lot more sense if they were housed in a separate repository. This would be something that the KFP maintainers are willing to maintain. And what we're thinking about is to have separate tiers. So there'll be a stable tier where we would maintain pipelines and components that are maintained by the KFP maintainer. So these get maintainer level support. We would have CI and we'd have policies around it, better documentation, what have you. And then we'll have a separate section for user submitted components and pipelines. The details for this are still being worked out. But there's a lot of gains on doing this in a separate repository. For one, having it in the KFP repository today has led to a lot of CVEs and vulnerabilities that are being shown up for the KFP project, which are not directly related to KFP, but rather the user submitted pipelines. Not all of these dynamic analysis tools allow you to provide sufficient ignores to be able to ignore these. And tools like Dependabot don't have the ability for you to ignore these, and they continuously try to upgrade Python packages or what have you for these components. And it adds a lot of burden to maintain for the maintainers, even though that wasn't the initial intent. So, so that's the current thinking. We have provided a deprecation notice for this repository. Our hope is to have a repository that we can migrate to in December's time. And we see this as not necessarily a repository that would be only maintained by KFP maintainers, because you can have, we do see components as a way to improve integration between various different Kubeflow components. Similar to like the Kubeflow SDK, components can allow you to integrate Kubeflow pipelines with other components within Kubeflow. So that could result in sharing governance and a separate governance model. The repository would have a more rigorous layout and structure than the directory has had historically. So we would enforce proper documentation, proper prerequisites that one might need to utilize the components, and CI around it if it's, again, being maintained by the KFP maintainers. And optionally, if you're a maintainer yourself and not a KFP maintainer and you want to have CI around it, then you can also do that as well. So now we're gauging, I guess I'm bringing it here to get the thoughts of the community and other leads, and to have your thoughts on this proposal and what are our next action items to make that happen.
Okay, so if people have comments, I think maybe let's do it by raising hands. I've got some comments, but I'll go later. Or if no one else has comments. Anyone feel free to raise their hand. Okay, my first comment is, the concern that I have is more around what are we actually offering as Kubeflow, right? So what is part of Kubeflow and what is not? Are the components part of Kubeflow? Are any, maybe better question, are any components part of Kubeflow? Obviously, most components will be provided by the users themselves, but the question is that, my first one. The second one is, Kubeflow pipelines doesn't have a versioning concept in pipelines. In components.
So the first question, I think that's a broader question. I don't think that's for KFP maintainers necessarily to answer. We can certainly discuss that. I would think that if you were to ask me, I would gauge it off of if we see big user adoption for it, I think that's a good candidate to make it part of Kubeflow. That would be my personal opinion. But I would say that because KFP, I would say it would be part of KFP in that the components that we treat as first-class citizens would be part of KFP. So you can make the argument, I think, that if since KFP is part of Kubeflow, by virtue of KFP being part of Kubeflow, those pipelines would certainly be a part of that as well.
So then it becomes a very important question, which is what are the criteria for a component to be an official component?
Yeah, and I think that would be subject to discussion. Like we would make a proposal for it. We can have community buy-in. We can have other leads buy-in to this is what we consider to be the criteria that is required to have this be a first-class citizen support tier, so to speak.
So I'll draw one comparison to a project that had this exact thing go on and had lots of problems, which is Airflow. So Airflow has thousands of official components, which are mostly low-level primitives. And then all of the vendor connection stuff, if the vendor wants to be supported, they must maintain it themselves, if you know what I mean. Like GCP has to maintain their ones, Amazon has to maintain their ones. I feel like vendor perspectives, I think that's an important question about that, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in fact, that's kind of what ended up happening with the components directory in KFP, is that I think that the initial intent was to have various vendors and community members support it, and it just fell apart. And so I would expect that the ones that we support, i.e. Maintainers. So to give you examples, I'm thinking components that integrate with like KFT or with Spark or whatever, right? Like common use cases that we identify as something being very meaningful and useful to the user, we would support, and we would have CI around it, right? So we would make sure that they're constantly working with the latest version of KFP and so on. So this would be handled via tiers, right? So I would consider that to be like a stable tier, right? Where we have a criteria around what it means for it to be supported by Kubeflow pipelines, or if it's a separate Kubeflow component that's maintaining their separate piece. Let's say if it's like KFT that wants to support a integration component with KFP, then we can have maintainers there commit to it. And if we don't have commitments, then it's not a first-class citizen, right? It's maybe a vendor submitted or user submitted once, and it doesn't follow the same level of. We wouldn't put it under the stable label.
I've got one. I'll come to Francisco in 2 seconds. I've got one response to that, which is, why not just use like one of the OCI container specs as the way that we package our components, and then say you can host them on Docker Hub, you can host them on GitHub Container Registry, and then it's up to. And we have a few ones that we provide, probably like you're saying, but they're on a Docker registry type of structure rather than with tags, you know, for versioning, rather than a not Docker, you know what I mean, like containers, you know what I mean, like, and like rather than using Git versioning like this, you know, maybe we should. Yeah.
You're saying like provide them with the means to upload it somewhere. We don't provide the means for you to host these like
and then
common pipelines.
Exactly, because you could have Amazon providing their own ones on their ECR, or maybe on.
Yeah,
their, you know.
I think that's a fair point. I think that that's one consideration. I think that maybe doing it this way gives us a means of promoting pipelines. So like if we give the users the ability, I mean, first they can do that today, right? Like users can host their pipelines and components today in GitHub, right? Or what have you. Like nothing stops them from doing that. Right. I think
the thing that stops them is the lack of a consistent versioning story around pipelines. Like, what is the artifact that I'm actually providing? Is it just that YAML file? Because it also has a container image beside it. It also has. There's no.
Well, that would, I would say, be somewhat of an argument towards allowing a. So let's say, for example, we were to provide a components repository, right, and we would provide standards around it and show users like this is how you would maintain your own pipelines or components, right, and. This is if organizations can do something similar, they could even fork it and have it in their downstream whatever, right? So that to me would sound like it's more in favor of that kind of an approach, where right now there's no such model. Everybody kind of just does whatever, right?
What I'm saying is KFP maybe should change the way that components are packaged, is more what I was saying. But Francisco, you want to?
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that in Feast we have some of this analogously with like the integrations that we offer, where where we integrate with databases, and we have like 35 plus of them, and like we actually do a pretty good job of this, and making like a lot of vendors come in, contribute like an offline or online store. And my view on that as a maintainer is that like I'm pro business, and so I welcome that. Now, what I do enforce are standards in making sure that their contributions are reflected in the CI. And like Snowflake, as an example, is a offline store for Feast, and we have integration tests that run Snowflake. And I guess this was done before, but they probably donate some compute and keep up the tests. And so so long as it runs, and I've had to debug a couple things, I'll keep it. But the moment it becomes really, really painful and we can't do anything for the community, then I'll rip it out. But my general, like my reflection on like all of these, like stale components, is that the project lost a lot of traction. That is just kind of a true thing. That's why they're stale, because people didn't find enough value in maintaining them. And that to me is a symptom of like something more important that we should take on. I was like, okay, the product didn't innovate enough going forward to keep it, to keep these other parties interested, right? And so I think like we can wipe them, we can get rid of them. They're stale, that's fine. Like whenever someone's going to contribute to components like these, for sure that'll happen unless there are integration tests that you ultimately, the core maintainers, have to be on the hook to make sure, or ping people, and those people change jobs, so like that doesn't necessarily go away. My honest opinion would be just forcing during PR reviews that it's in a CI, and if not, just label it as like this is community maintained versus like actual maintainer maintained, and then that's enough. I actually think if we go and wipe it, we lose a lot in terms of the visibility and even the talking points that like whoever contributed this thing, right, which ends up adding some sort of value, even if it's a little bit noisy.
I will respond. I just want to have one response there, because I think you're making a slight false equivalence. This is an arbitrary pipeline engine, meaning that the value of the tool is its ability to literally do anything. The pipeline components are things that can do actually anything. Like an integration with a database has a defined API. This does not.
I would agree there, but what I'm saying is it's not a technical thing here. My whole framing is just that it's the reflection of the community, and it's a community health, project health thing, not the capabilities of KFP versus Feast and the analog. I agree with you. I agree with your point, but I guess like that's not the point I'm arguing about.
Yeah, but I think that it fundamentally might misunderstand the value of KFP. Like the value of KFP is that it can do anything.
Like I don't like to be blunt. Like I'm not sure that matters, right? Like, but I only look at software as valuable in so much as people use it.
Yeah,
and so like people don't use it. Anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So okay, I 100% agree with you, Francisco, and I think that's a part of it, right? Like that. There weren't any CI around it. There wasn't any testing around it. We didn't know when a lot of these started failing, right? I'm sure like they've been failing for years now, and we have no insights into that, right? I would like it to be more rigorous than that. I would like to have CI around, at least know the ones that we are testing that we consider stable. If we find that they're failing and the maintainers are not around to maintain it, then the answer just might be that like, okay, well, we cannot maintain this anymore and we have to remove it. Right. I also agree with you, Matthew. Yeah, you can use any KFP to do anything, right? But we find that there are a lot of common use cases that arise, right? And that there's a lot of repetition that happens with users, that they're doing the same things over and over again. And there's also the overhead that they acquire from having to learn how to do tasks when they're first onboarding. We want to make all of that easier for them, right? We see that, what folks end up doing is they end up creating components or YAMLs, whatever, that they start reusing as recipes. And we want to give them a venue to be able to contribute that. And if it's a popular enough use case, we want to be able to promote that, right? And say that, hey, this is something that everybody can benefit from, and we can have CI around it, we can maintain it. And I think that's something meaningful to add for the users, right? Like,
so are you saying they're references or actually something that we want users to consume? And
Yeah,
sorry,
we want.
we'll come back to
Yes,
Mateo in a second.
they can be both, right? It's there will be pluggable components that, because we're testing, we will say that you can use them in your pipelines, right? You can import them, you can use them. If you want to adapt them, you're free to do that, right?
Mateo?
Just quickly, couple of, first of all, I think is a great way to sort of like indeed have maintenance for these components. Just a couple of considerations that I've seen in other open source project, if maybe they help, and I'm curious what the Kubeflow community thinks. In another, I would say, popular open source project, instead of sort of like having sort of like now you're incorporating from the repo of the pipeline itself into its own repo, but then again, they are in, say, separate folder. What I see other open source project adopt is like two orgs. One is that we say is like Kubeflow, and a separate GitHub org that could be, say, Kubeflow/user contribs, call it whatever you want. It's not necessarily now. So I just have a question for the, I don't know, the KSC or in general to this venue, if this is something that the Kubeflow community has ever considered in the past, of having another GitHub org that is indeed for user contributed, say, components, but it could be even demos or example that at least allow them to spin a repo without too much procedure and process, and very easily sort of like have ownership of those one. So that is one point. The second point is more for the KFP team. Indeed, is like I mean, if these end up like in distributed as Docker images, then also could be a way. But indeed, maybe the thing that you want to aim for is like to have sort of like a catalog of the components available, so that indeed is like if people push a Docker image that is represent their component of have their own GitHub repo in somewhere else, you have one like catalog view of having the Kubeflow components available, so that they can browse it. Like you could browse it on kubeflow.org/ I don't know, KFP components, and then you have something like a Docker Hub catalog of models, but instead is a catalog of components. So this is an idea that I would consider doing, and you could do that by simply asking them to place a well-named YAML file in their repo, and GitHub is actually pretty smart with the API to give you back for all GitHub, like the list of repos that have adopted that YAML file, so that you can collate them one in a catalog that you can surface that one. So I just thought about adding and throwing it into the brainstorm ideas. If you want, of course, just a free one.
Yeah, my thinking is, I think that is, so the intent is to have maintained components and pipelines. I did see the Kubeflow incubator org. It does look very much abandoned. I think creating a repo is free. I think that my preference would be in the Kubeflow pipelines repository. If there's a pushback in that we should have user submitted pipelines in a separate org, I think we can come around to that. It just is a lot significantly easier for us to maintain one repository versus multiple.
Like, my concern is like, I really don't want to see vendor specific implementations being maintained by us, you know, like that's kind of part where I'm like, and then almost all these components are just Python scripts anyway that connect to their API, right?
Trust me, I do not want to, this is, for me, this is reducing maintenance burden on KFP maintainers and other maintainers. If like, we would be very diligent in ensuring that we have commitment for maintenance, and we would have like, what I don't want is stale abandoned pipelines, because that's what we ended up with. So what I would like to, this is like, again, I'm a big proponent of not having stale code, which is why we ripped out Tecton from KFP, because we did not have maintainers on it and it was adding maintainers burden, right? Similarly, we do not have these components being maintained. It is a useful feature in KFP. I would like to have maintained components. I would like to have commitments by maintainers, and if we have criteria around that. If it's violated, if we do not have maintainers and CI is continuously failing, we just rip it out and we keep it fresh, we keep it clean. Andre?
Yeah, no overtime. Sorry. Like, I think so. We kind of like, I agree with your statements, Homer. Like, again, as I said on the KFP call, if you guys think that just creating a repo and moving those components to this repo will make sense, initially we should do it. The second point I want to make, like, I think in 2019, so before Kubeflow started in 2017, we didn't even have the Kubeflow pipelines. So Kubeflow pipelines originally was created to kind of stitch all those, like microservices together and provide a comprehensive end-to-end ML workflow. And I guess like when Google started this project, it didn't really spend a lot of time to make sure we have a well integrated story. And I like your point around, hey, like maybe we should have a set of community kind of state-of-the-art components to perform training, optimization, inference, Spark processing, which is kind of like reusing the actual Kubeflow tools and have a very well integration with KFP SDK, KFP DSL, etc. So folks can do this, right? And this actually was the original idea why Google started Kubeflow pipelines back in 2019, and we definitely should pursue this. On the other hand, again, like if the problem with I agree with Francisco that we should show visibility, and many other organizations see the value of KFP in creating their own components. But maybe the first step, moving them outside of Kubeflow pipelines repo to reduce the burden on you guys would make sense. But maybe eventually, if those components will stay unmaintained, we should just maybe remove them, right? Because what is the point of even having them, correct?
I just feel like we shouldn't have Amazon and Google ones in here, and anything that's vendor just literally doesn't make sense.
No, so if you're Matt, if your sorry, Matthew, I don't know if you go by Matt, but if your issue is with the naming and like the statement that these are vendor specific, we can 100% rename them. I kind of agree with you. Like we do not have to mention that these are AWS, that these are what have you, right? They were user submitted who happen to be from AWS. Those can be renamed, right? Like if.
But then how do we prevent? So the two problems with that, I don't think moving the code is going to change the maintainer status. For these ones, at least. I also don't. Yeah. And I also think that we should provide a way for these vendors, if they would like to make components, but they shouldn't be on our repos. And because otherwise it just becomes a tool that it's like, well, maybe this is useful to some people. It's unclear, right? But like, this is what that's what I come back to. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Let me jump in. Okay. So I think we should, forget that says AWS and IBM or whatever, right? Like just there were users that submitted it and there was a renaming of the folder that we don't like, okay, to a vendor, okay? Now, if we have a components repo, if somebody's coming and they're saying, hey, I'm from IBM or I'm from Google or whatever, right? And Google would like to contribute, right? Like that's not how we see it. We see it as, okay, you're a contributor, that you're contributing this pipeline. Please tell us why this is useful for users and why we should add this, right? And who is going to maintain it, right? And they have to meet this criteria, right? That, okay, this is something that would be useful for Kubeflow users, right? And that that we do have a plan, we have testing plans, we have, just like how we treat any other feature that we add, we need all these questions answered and we need CI in place and what have you. So that wasn't there before, right? We would need that to be there today. And if we don't have, they're just other contributors, there'll be reviewers and approvers and so on.
My perspective is that the value of KFP is its component API, not the components themselves. And so we need to make that
well
better.
That's not going away, right? And
yeah.
the way this services that as well, right? This also opens up our ability to recognize how modular like components and pipelines are when you try to create integrations between different Kubeflow components and what have you that we try to maintain, right? This also forces maintainers to try to use it from like a user standpoint as well. And when other users try to, this component repo will eventually result in issues that users can make that, hey, I can't integrate my whatever because I'm encountering such and such issues with the components API, right? So like that, it will eventually surface that as well, as my hope, right?
So my proposal, I mean, I don't know what everyone else wants to do, but I think we should write up what our plan is and what the alternatives and outcomes are for, like, just like we did for any proposal.
Yeah,
right?
we can make a cap for
Like a
this.
cap, right? Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah,
a cap.
yeah,
And then we can
yeah.
have a discussion about the cap being like, because I think this is a really big inflection point for the project, being like, one of the ways is that we literally provide no components at all. And we say that is always a community thing, never our thing. Another one, and we only provide the API. Another one, in the same way that Docker doesn't provide official Docker images, you know what I mean? And then there's like another
Right.
one, which is like, we don't provide any community ones and we intend you to consume our ones always, right? And then there's somewhere in between.
Docker doesn't provide images, but there's definitely a lot of very popular base images that are like.
But they're not maintained
used-
by Docker.
Sure, right? But like they are provisioned in a way by other like.
So let's write this up
projects
as a
and
cap.
commu-
Anyway, that's
Yeah.
my proposal is that we need to write this up as like a, what are we actually doing here and why? So that it's very hard to have an abstract discussion when it's like, okay, moving the repo. I mean, I'm sure,
we
but
can
like,
we can we can have a cap for this and I
like
guess
a Google Doc where people can make some comments. Yeah. And it's not, doesn't have to be super comprehensive. It's like, why are we doing this? What are we doing? And what did we consider as an alternative? You know, like these just basic kind of questions,
Sure.
right? Because I feel like right now we're discussing around those topics without really having a list of being like,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think cap for this makes sense. We can have a cap for this. Where is the right place to?
so there is a template for the caps, I believe.
Well, we have proposals and for KFP, we do caps
But
there.
this is more of a,
We can,
well, okay, I mean,
so
again, this
where
is
would
up to the KFP project as well. It is like, in the end, you guys get to make this call.
Right. My question is, where does the community caps go?
I think they used to live, I think they may have been in either the community repo.
Oh, I see. There's a proposal section in the community repo. So I guess over here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
'Cause
Cool.
making a new repo probably does require a cap, but making a, because it's a new project, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Because I think this is really cool. This, I mean, I raised an issue years ago about making components more modular and things like that. And I agree with these ideas, but I do worry that we don't want to make Kubeflow pipelines. The value of them is not the components. It shouldn't, like, it just feels like you're never going to beat Airflow in that. Like, it's just not, it's not reasonable. So like, it's if at anything, maybe we should adopt Airflow as their component standard, you know what I mean? Like, or something like that. But it's, or make a way to translate them into KFP components easily. I don't know, but it's, who knows? But anyway, let's finalize this meeting. We've kind of gone a bit over time, everyone. I'm sorry about that. I don't have any say in this anyway. It's up to the KFP people, but my perspective is I want the project to succeed. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll come up with a cap. I think might have one by next week. So I'll bring it to the community's attention then as well.
Yeah, let's all just discuss it. Then we have a concrete, like, here's the proposal, yes, no. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way.
Right.
Right now we just have, let's get rid of the components. Where it's like, okay, sure, but like, why? Which ones? Yes, no. Is any of one remaining? And then we can have specific discussions like, okay, and I think this will be one, and maybe put this in your proposal, which is, what is the criteria, like really hard legalese criteria for what is in a component that would be allowed to do it? Like, I'd say hard no to anything that depends on an external API. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of
external.
a non-generic standard, like something like MySQL connection, fine. SageMaker API, no.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, right? But then
Yep.
it's not. But then it's like, okay, but I still want SageMaker to work with Kubeflow pipelines. So then we need to provide a method for Amazon to make their own component repo or something. You know, like that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thoughts. Anyone else want to add anything before we close out? I know that Andre wanted to talk about this. I think we can talk about it the next time. I will separately talk about the CNCF migration with Andre. I think. Yes. Anyone else got anything? Okay, cool. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you guys and people.